The cellular membrane or the plasma membrane is going to be the outer boundary of the cell. Now, it's covering the cell surface, and its true job is to be the barrier between the inside of the cell and the outside. So we said that it's very picky. We commonly call this selective permeability. That means it's really pickable. Permeable means things can pass back and forth, but they're going to have the right size, they're going to have the right shape, and they're going to have the right polarity in order to gain entry into and get out of a cell. So it's covering the cell. Now, we talked about this when we talked about lipids. This is a lipid bilayer, and this is the little heads of the phosphorus. This is where the phosphorus is. And then these little tails are these fatty acid chains that we talked about when we talked about lipids. And taking you back, the lipid was a glycerol molecule, and it had anywhere from 1 to 3 fatty acid chains. Well, the type of lipid that our cell membrane has is called a phospholipid because it has a phosphorus group attached to it. So the head portion has got a phosphorus group, and then it has 2 fatty acid chains. One of them has double bonds, so it gives it that little kink that the double bond gives, and it makes the center hydrophobic. Now that means that it doesn't like water. So the heads up here, even though lipids overall are nonpolar, the phosphorus group attached to the head makes this top layer polar. Then we have this center layer of tails, what they call tails, and they're nonpolar, and then this inner layer here that is polar. So it's polar, the center group is nonpolar, and then the bottom layer is polar. Now, this is really important because things have to not only be the right size and shape, but they have to have the right polarity. So the polar is called hydrophilic. Hydro means water. Philos means loving. So it's fine here, but here in this middle now, this is hydrophobic. It doesn't like water. So it prevents some things from coming and some things from going. The cytoplasm is the region between the plasma membrane and the nuclear membrane. The nucleus itself does not lie within the cytoplasm, and I want you to remember that because sometimes I will ask you to give me a few organelles that lie in the cytoplasm, and sometimes kids give me nucleus. Well, the nucleus is not in the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is between the plasma membrane and the nuclear membrane. So it is going to include the cytoskeleton and a lot of organelles except the nucleus. The cytoskeleton is actually the skeleton of the cell. You have a skeleton. You all know what your skeleton looks like, and it gives you shape. It has a function. It gives shape to your body. Without it, you wouldn't have definitive arms and legs and a spine. We just wouldn't have that kind of definition. So with the cell now, it has to have some kind of shape because the cell membrane itself is not a real rigid, hard membrane. It's very fluid. Remember, all of your cells are in water, so they're very fluid, which means they're very flexible. So something has to give the cell shape, and that's why we call it cytoskeleton, with cyto meaning cell. So this is the skeleton of the cell. And also the organelles. So every organelle but the nucleus will be found here, and such organelles would be Golgi, endoplasmic reticulum, lysosomes, peroxisomes. A lot of food vacuoles can be found in the cytoskeleton as well.